I titled today's conversation Mind Map, Stop Needing, Wanting, and Waiting. $1 million is yours now. Today's conversation has been inspired by a number of recent conversations I've been having on the topic of $1 million being yours now. And partially why I believe that I'm having these conversations more so lately is that is what I'm writing my book about. I am writing a book about the direct path to $1 million from personal experience. If you're interested in learning about the book, which will be released on April 25th, I put a link in the description to an email list where you can join, and you'll also be notified about an event that I'm doing and a number of things that's going to be happening over the next couple months, which I trust you'll find to be very helpful and very beneficial on your entrepreneurial journey. If you would love those details and also would like to get a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. So here's what I mean. Stop needing, wanting, and waiting. $1 million is yours now. So again, based on my personal experience of building 3 successful businesses, I have found that the revenue-generating activities that the individual involves themselves with, or the individuals on their team are involving themselves with, or a combination, are as follows: prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, and ongoing business with existing clients. This is how we bring in the revenues. So you may know the way I segment entrepreneurship is as follows: innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership. Today, we're focusing more on the sales and marketing and the innovation. See, when we're going about our day-to-day initiatives, whatever they may be, on our entrepreneurial journey, we may come up with ideas for products and or services, which we can offer those products and services. We bring awareness to our products and services through the marketing, and through client acquisition, we generate clients from converting prospects and leads into clients through conversation. Could be an email conversation, could be through DM, could be one-on-one in person or on Zoom. There's a conversation happening. And that conversation is where a prospect or a lead becomes a client. So we may be out and about prospecting, which means going to particular places, whether it be online or offline, to meet individuals who can benefit from our products and services. This is how we identify qualified prospects, those that would be a harmonious match for our products or services. We do that through prospecting. That is why I consider that to be a revenue-generating activity. Then we also have lead generation. Lead generation is any kind of content creation, for example, or marketing that the individual or business does that brings in individuals who would be interested in doing business with you. They may be interested in becoming a client for one of your products or services, or a few or all of them. By bringing awareness to what you do through your content, through your marketing, you generate qualified leads. Now, through prospecting and lead generation, what I like to do is bring the qualified prospects and the qualified leads over to a conversation, which can happen via email, DM, text message, WhatsApp, or it could happen on Zoom, whatever you'd like. there's a conversation happening. It can even happen in person. I've acquired clients through email, through DMs, through one-on-one, in person. And I've also done it on Zoom. I've done it back in the days on Skype. I've done it by traveling to particular locations where my leads are and engaging in a conversation. That's a client acquisition conversation, or as I refer to it, as exploratory conversation. So we have a good idea that we are a match working together. And now let's have a conversation about it. Is it really true that we are a harmonious match to work together? Let's explore. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, great. But both of us are interested in having that conversation. So that's a client acquisition conversation. When we have these conversations, a number of the prospects and leads become clients. Now, when they become clients, we engage in a wonderful experience with them, as in we facilitate through our operations, wonderful product and service delivery, timeliness, quality, spirit of service. We pour our heart into what we do after we acquire the client. And as we do, we build a relationship with the client. And this relationship is mutually beneficial in many ways. Some of the ways include that the client may refer business to you. Thus, in a way, we're doing ongoing business with the existing clients. Not that they necessarily would get a referral fee, but depending on how you set it up, they can get a referral fee. Thus, that's ongoing business with existing clients. They can also benefit from another product or service that we have. We may come up with ideas. We may innovate and come up with ideas of how we can create new products and services to offer them, and thus they can become ongoing clients because they have a wonderful relationship with you. And through the conversations, all throughout the facilitation, the operations, the client engagement, while they're going through the delivery process of the service, product, etc., while they're going through the fulfillment of the product or service, we're building a relationship with them and discovering additional pains, needs, desires, and frustrations, which are opportunities for engaging in ongoing business with them. And as mentioned, they can refer business to us because they have a wonderful relationship with us. They can also buy additional products and services that we have. We can also offer them new products and services upon uncovering these pains, needs, desires, and frustrations, which are opportunities. And we can create them, or we can partner with other businesses to create them, or we can receive referral fees or affiliate commission by referring them to other vendors or service providers that can provide what they're looking for and take a cut out of the deal. These are some of the ways. And so this conversation is designed to release the needing, wanting, and waiting, the desperation around prospecting, the desperation around lead generation, the needing, wanting, and waiting, without shame and condemnation, on client acquisition and also generating ongoing business with existing clients. When we discover that there are infinity ways to generate prospects, infinity ways to generate leads, infinity ways to convert leads and prospects into clients, and there are infinity ways that we can engage in ongoing business with existing clients. What I would like to share with you in this video is how I generated millions of dollars in my 3 businesses. My IT business, which I ran from 2009 to 13, my consulting practice, where I consulted with businesses in the areas of innovation, sales, operations, finance, leadership, communication, learning and teaching, productivity, subconscious mind, everything that I cover in my 5 programs. I was brought into businesses based on my experience to put these things in place. And not only did I put these things in place, but I also worked with these businesses to put additional infrastructure, marketing strategies, sales, conversion techniques, you name it, across the board. And I have seen what I found to be effective, what they have found to be effective, and what was theory and conjecture, and although it may sounded nice, wasn't as effective, or maybe effective for one business, but not effective for their business, which is totally fine. And so that's what this conversation is about. We're talking about practically releasing the needing, wanting, and waiting to acknowledge that $1 million is here now, as you are right now, standing on your own acres of diamonds. You are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds. Let's talk about how we can increase our effectiveness of prospecting, effectiveness of lead generation, effectiveness of client acquisition during the conversations, and engage in ongoing business with existing clients in a practical way to prove the point that one does not need to be desperate. One does not need the particular prospects or leads to convert or force or strong arm the clients, as there are abundance of opportunities available. And if we go about prospecting in this way, if we go about lead generation in this way, which is what I've done and which is what I teach, if we go about client acquisition in this way, if we engage in ongoing business with existing clients, then the business experience, building a business, the pathway to actualizing $1 million and beyond is fun, joyous, flow-based, no stress, no force, no strong arming, none of that required. Unless you want to do it that way. I personally don't recommend that way because I like to have fun. I like to be in flow. That is the natural way of being. Okay, so with respect to prospecting, here are some ways. Attending niche events. So a person may think, well, I engaged in a particular prospecting strategy. Well, I did something in prospecting and I don't seem to get the kind of leads that I would like, the kind of clients that I would like. People don't seem to be interested. Well, let's throw this into the mix. And you don't have to do all of these. You could do one, a few, or a variation of these. These are ones that I have done and worked with clients to do that have been effective. And I like to share my experiences in relation to them. So attend niche events. You can show up where your ideal clients gather and spark natural conversations. So an example would be, I remember going to an event where there were individuals that were interested in websites, internet marketing, and also optimizing their internet marketing, their online sales. And this was an event where there were a number of people that were offering products and services in the holistic health space. They were networking with each other so they could do partnerships, yet many of them did not have reliable service providers that have built businesses based on results, are then offering how they have done it. So not just people saying, I do websites, or I can put in Aweber or whatever tool, but they also wanted people to work with that have produced the results using these various tools and technologies and systems and processes. And I went to these events and I acquired a number of clients through these events. So you see how that is a niche event. It's a niche event, and the ideal clients were there. The next is strategic cold DMing, reaching out with curiosity and personalized value, not a pitch. So strategic cold DMing, why I put strategic is if we invest a bit of time to study the profiles of the individuals, maybe we have consumed some of their content, maybe we know of them, learn about what they do, check out their websites, check out what they do, rather than sending a bunch of DM messages randomly, which can end up in spam. And when they see it, they say, well, this is a generic message. And sometimes these generic messages can be helpful. it could spark the conversation. What I'm referring to very specifically is doing research on the individuals that are people that you're interested in reaching out to via DM, and then sending them a personalized message. Consider for a moment that if you're offering something that is $5,000 or $10,000, and if you send out 5 cold DMs a day and you acquire a client at the end of the week as a result of sending out 5 DMs 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, that's 25 DMs. If you acquired a client, let's say at $5,000, that would be $20,000 a month. And if it was $10,000, that would be $40,000 a month. And you also refine your ability to prospect. You get better at determining who is the match. You'll discover patterns, and then you'll target those individuals, and you'll know how to personalize messages in a way that's a match. Now, speaking of which, if you would like me to go further and deeper into the nuances of what we're talking about here, leave a question in the comment section, and I'm happy to explore in an upcoming video. If you would like to work one-on-one with me, bring me in for coaching and consulting, you could check out my website, Online Training for Entrepreneurs. We've got Flow-Based Prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service. Also, josephrodriguez.com. You can inquire about coaching and consulting, and we could see what is an ideal match for both of us. The next is podcast guesting, or being a guest on YouTube channels. I have acquired a number of clients as a result of being a guest on various podcasts. I have acquired a number of clients as a result of being a guest on other individuals' YouTube channels. These are audiences that have never heard of me before, or they are audiences that have heard of me before, but because the individual that's running the podcast knows their audience really well, they're able to ask me specific questions. They're able to ask relatable questions to their audience. And upon answering these questions based on experience, reference experience, stories, and integrity, really, of personal experience and my style of doing things in a way that is relatable to their audience, a number of members of their audience reached out to me and even said things like, although I have watched your videos before, this conversation that you had with so-and-so is the reason why I want to work with you. The next is direct email outreach. So just as you can send DMs, the same is true for emails. Now, one of the things that I like to do is compile a list of emails of people that I have found that meet particular criteria of the ideal client that I'm looking for. Sometimes I may ask someone to compile that list for me. Or I may extract my Gmail and filter out the emails of those that are most likely to engage with me in business in some shape or form for a particular new offer or something like that. I also have an email list in Aweber. And I send out an email. And you can do this in a batch format, like you could send out a mass email. But what I like to do, again, I like to focus on very personalized emails. And if it sounds too generic, as mentioned, although that can acquire clients, that's based on numbers. Well, this is also what I'm going to say based on numbers, but these numbers tend to convert higher if the message is more personalized and specific. And I've worked with companies to put these kinds of emails in place, which have increased their conversion, and obviously because the messaging is more specific and less generic. And it brings up specific points that they're interested in, reference to particular content that they were talking about, specific subjects on, and how we have worked with clients in that particular area, etc. And may even include a very, we can say, laid back call to action to book a session with you, maybe a link to Calendly to book a session with you to start engaging in a conversation one-on-one via Zoom to see if we're a match. Consider this. To remove the needing, wanting, and waiting, although we're exploring many different ways, consider that the way I go about the many different ways is exploratory. I'm not interested in forcing them to work with me. I would like to see if we are a match working together, mutually beneficial. I don't want a client working with me if it is not going to be a harmonious relationship for both of us. I don't want them to have me as a consultant, as a service provider, if it is not a harmonious match for them. Nor do I want to acquire them as a client, because if I do force it and try to make it work, then it's this walking on eggshells kind of relationship, and it's not my style. A lot of times I find that they're a better suit, a better fit for another service provider that I may know that is actually going to serve them in a way that is personalized for them. So, for example, I love coaching, I love consulting, I like training, I love facilitation. Yet, one of my clients, Ruben Brooks, if you go over to the page that is linked in the description, you can check out a conversation that I had with him. He ended up building a very successful business being a fitness coach, and then he moved into offering fitness business building for fitness professionals that are interested in taking their coaching business to the next level. So he has a very specific offer. And although I can do coaching and consulting, I have referred a number of people over to his offerings because they're very specific and geared towards fitness professionals that are interested in growing a business in a very particular way, which he is a master at facilitating. So that's what I mean. I don't need to force people to become my clients. And so that removes the wanting, needing, and waiting. You see it? What we're interested in here, and I trust you see this, is all of this. What's the commonality? Harmonious relationships. Harmonious relationships. Not just relationships. Harmonious relationships is the commonality here. And it's based on mutual harmony, mutual benefit. So the next is commenting in online communities. So you could get prospects over to your offers, engage in a conversation with you, a client acquisition conversation by leaving comments on particular online communities. The art is to add value, to genuinely answer questions, and I personally recommend removing the needing, wanting. Why I recommend it is it can come off that way in the comments. If they would like to acquire you as a service provider, they may inquire more. I actually find that this magnetic approach to be very effective. I remember I've been a part of a number of masterminds where there were online communities, and people would reach out to me for coaching and consulting because I was applying exactly what we're talking about here. I was engaging in conversation. I was facilitating results without asking for anything in return. And then naturally, what's interesting is they reach out and they say, I would like to work with you. And I've seen this not just with myself, with the clients that I've worked with, the various people that I've seen that have built businesses as a result of commenting in online communities and acquiring clients through there, is because they're contributing to the group. And if it is a match, it is a match. I always say, what is yours can never be taken away from you. The client and the service provider are one. And so who can take the client away from the service provider that are a harmonious match with each other? They are a harmonious match with each other. I used to say this in my other channel, who you desire desires you. That does not mean force, stress, manipulating. It is essentially, that is the way it is. Naturally, people come together in spirit of harmony. And so that is how we take a magnetic approach to prospecting. So even though prospecting can be looked at as reaching out to people, it can be done in a magnetic way. Meeting people where they are, going to places where your ideal prospects would be. It is not done in a way that violates the integrity of the online community. It is also not done in a way that's pushy, stress-based, force-based. This is magnetic prospecting. Proactive referrals. You can ask your network to introduce you to people that would benefit from what you're offering. So, for example, I talk about how you can create a list of people who are interested in your product or service, and you can reach out to them. I also recommend including in that list or creating another list, reaching out to individuals that can refer business to you. So, although we may look at it as prospecting for clients, what about prospecting for referral partners who can refer business to you? Another way to prospect is through collaborative projects. Co-create mini projects which are aligned, that access particular audiences. So, for example, I have done this a number of times where I've partnered with other service providers and we've had conversations. We did mini meetups together, mini workshops together, and then it resulted in client acquisition. A client I'm thinking about is Iris Reading, North America's largest speed reading instructing organization. And I taught their workshops from 2010 to 2018. That's the last one that I did, and I may consider doing more of them. That was a lot of fun. Paul, who's the founder of Iris Reading, we have a wonderful relationship together. And we have collaborated in ways to do workshops together. And that resulted in business for Iris Reading, plus it also resulted in consulting and coaching clients. See, all these ways of acquiring more prospects. And as we go about these ways, as we realize that these are just some of the infinity ways, these are just some. We could talk forever about the various ways of prospecting. And you can also, and I recommend it, your style is the best style. Go about it in your way. So just as we can go about these ways for prospecting, which is completely magnetic and attractive, no needing, wanting, or waiting, or craving, we can also consider that when we look at the scope, this is just some of the ways of prospecting. You can explore. There are infinity ways. What happens is when you realize that there's infinity ways, the needing, wanting drops right away, instantly drops. Because you say, there are infinity ways. Today I feel like doing this way, tomorrow I feel like doing that way. What is the natural, fun, joyous, flow-based way to prospect? Let's start with that. Easy, fun, effortless, joyous. This is why I never get tired of prospecting. I never feel stressed or frustrated prospecting because I go about prospecting in the way that is fun, joyous, flow-based. Flow is the way of life, and I apply prospecting in the particular prospecting opportunities that are natural, easeful, fun, and flow-based. And considering that there are infinity of them, I just choose the ones, these are the ones right here that are the most fun, because that's where I feel excited. Another one is re-engage past leads. See, a person may think, well, I reached out to them before, they're not interested. Well, maybe they're interested in working with you now. I have found by emailing those individuals, reaching out to those individuals that were leads in the past, or going to places where they are, it has resulted in client acquisition. Okay, so that's prospecting. Let's look at lead generation. Here are some ways. Offering a free lead magnet download. So what resulted in a considerable amount of business from my YouTube channel was when I introduced a link in the description to download a copy of the mind map videos. At what point that list was at 25,000 people. That's how many people were opting in to download a copy of the mind maps. And a number of them became clients for my products and services. That is what we call a lead magnet. We offer something via an opt-in form in exchange for their email address. It is completely consensual. They genuinely desire, and I also let them know that they'll be receiving upcoming emails, and they're welcome to unsubscribe. Actually, I welcome it because I would like to have a list of qualified leads, and if they got what they wanted out of it and they unsubscribe, fine. The ones that remain end up becoming leads that I end up nurturing through the emails, through the content, and even if they don't do business with me right away, the first week, the first month, the first 5 months, etc. Over the course, long term, relating to this from a long range perspective, they become clients. Not necessarily all of them, but one doesn't need all the leads to become clients. So we stop the needing, wanting, and waiting as we go about these initiatives. Live challenges, host 3 to 5 day challenge to engage people and guide them towards what you offer. Email courses, mini email courses, these are all lead magnets. Free trainings and masterclass. So any of these can be offered as an opt-in lead magnet. I don't consider one of these better than another. It is helpful to test. I like the most simple, fun, joyous one because then I can pour my heart into that lead magnet. And it was very valuable to share with everyone the downloads of the mind maps. And then when the individuals are on my mailing list, like for example, if you're on this mailing list for my book, you'll see that I also include a PDF copy of the mind map, a copy of the X-Mind mind map, and also a link to my video. So it consolidates, and I include some email copy that preps the video, introduces the video. And so that is something that is valuable for those that choose to remain on my email list. And the lead magnet can be, as mentioned, whatever you find to be very natural. Now, why I'm including this in here when it comes to needing, wanting, and waiting, let's say stopping needing, wanting, and waiting, is if you have a number of opportunities, different ways to prospect, and you prospect accordingly, and you have a number of ways to generate leads, and you're generating leads, why do you have to convert every single person into a client? You're going to get to a point that, this is what I found from experience, that you get so many leads, you have so many prospects, you really at that point are looking for the most ideal and harmonious match. And so there is no needing, wanting, or craving. And actually you find that you get more inquiries because that energy is not there. The needing, wanting energy is not there because you're practically living in abundance. And anyone can do this. As mentioned, you are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds. So again, for lead magnets, it could be email courses, live challenges, download a copy of the mind maps. That's one. You can use it if you'd like, if you offer mind maps in your videos, free trainings or master classes. Those are ways that we generate leads. Now, other ways we generate leads are content upgrades. So add bonuses to content and blog posts, etc., that they can get if they opt in. Like, for example, what was done with my website that I had back in the day, speedreadingzone.com, which was a website that was generating leads for Iris Reading. And when they converted, I ended up getting a cut out of those deals. And what did I do? I offered an ebook, which was a consolidation of the various posts and topics. And so in exchange for that, people would join my email list. And that could be considered a content upgrade because if you look at, some are not interested in going through all the posts that I had on the website. They wanted a consolidated book or consolidated video that gets to the point in a very direct way, in a way that's applicable, and they would gladly opt in for that. Another way to generate leads, DM me for access. If you're posting on Instagram, etc., DM me for access, call to action. Facebook group entry questions. This is a cool one. I joined a number of groups when I was using Facebook more often that would ask me questions prior to joining the group. And then we know that if they're applying what we're talking about here is they're taking the responses of those questions and determining how they could serve me. And if it is actually a product or service, then they may reach out to me or they may nurture me in a way that facilitates a harmonious relationship, client acquisition. Free community access. You can have a group of people. I did this a while back. Again, one doesn't need to do all these things. If I do all these things, or if you do, there are infinity things. How can you do all these things? But let's just say if we do a lot of these things, then it could generate a lot. And then, if you want to build a business and add more infrastructure in place to get more money, it's up to you. I mean, I don't really see it that way. I see it as I desire to make exactly what I desire to make and then invest accordingly, and everything grows and compounds accordingly to the numbers that I would like to have. And so what ends up happening then is every time you add one of these and it starts to generate you more leads, Then what happens is if you don't do the sales calls or if you don't do the client acquisitions conversation, then we miss out those opportunities, but that's okay. We can bring in people to do those sales calls. We can bring in salespeople to help out. And so then we put in more infrastructure leanly. And that could be done through infrastructure, delegation, automation leanly. So consider doing more of these can result in generating more leads. Doing more prospecting in different ways can result in generating more prospects. We want the ideal amount. I recommend the ideal amount so that you have consistent deal flow, which brings me to my next point, client acquisition. If you're having, and again, this is just a general number, but let's use that example that I brought up earlier. 5 prospecting sessions results in, let's use the $10,000 example. $10,000 at the end of the week, if you convert one of those prospects into your offering, which is $10,000, and you do 5 prospecting sessions, you reach out to 5 new prospects 5 days a week. But let's just say you throw in some lead generation activities, and that increases. So you got 5 prospects that you reach out every day, Monday to Friday, so that's 25 in a week. But your lead generation activities are booking calls on your calendar. Those are client acquisition conversations, sales calls. They're booking. And let's say to the tune of 2 a day. You do 5 prospects a day, and with your lead generation and your prospecting activities, you have 2 client acquisition conversations a day, which is 10 a week, and then one of those converts into clients. So when you have consistent prospecting, you have consistent lead generation, and I don't consider prospecting and lead generation to one be better than another. Some might prefer prospecting, some might prefer lead generation, totally fine. If you have an ideal ratio, then that's great as well. But let's just say through prospecting, you get 2 client acquisition conversations a day, or just through lead generation, you have 2 client acquisition conversations a day, or through lead generation and prospecting, you have 2 client acquisition conversations a day. And as mentioned, if one of them converts to a client in a week, then you make $10,000. Now, what if you would like to increase your conversion and also drop the wanting, needing, and craving? So rather than trying to force those 2 people that you talk to every day, 5 days a week, which is 10 in a week, you actually can be more magnetic by integrating in a practical way what is facilitating, what I have found, and many have found as well, what facilitates client acquisition and thus could increase those conversions from, let's say, doing 4 a month to 5 a month or 6 a month or 2 a week or something like that. And then when you see that you can do some of these things here, not necessarily all of them, do some of these things here, which are actually fun and joyous, of course the needing, wanting, and waiting is going to stop because the client acquisition numbers have gone up. So let's say that the entrepreneur or the salesperson or the sales professional is less needy. And then they're looking at it from the perspective, let's say, of how much they would like to make in a year. If they would like to make $250,000 a year, they would adjust their numbers accordingly. Yes, they could increase it, but they don't really want to. If they want to make less, fine. If they want to make more, fine. If they want to increase those numbers, that's fine as well. There's no force, stress, and frustration. That is the flow-based way. And so client acquisition, here are some considerations to increase the conversion from prospect into client, from lead into client, which can be done while having conversations via DM, one-on-one, in-person, online, offline, Zoom, etc. Open up the conversation with deep curiosity. Ask about their vision and what's important to them. Let's have them communicate what their intention is so that we can align our offer over to their intention so that it's an ideal match. It's a simple one. See, because otherwise the sales professional or the entrepreneur may try to force the features. Look, we got this feature, that feature. I really know I can help you, but this, although we can open up conversations and discover areas where they might not know, it is also very easy to find what they're already interested in and speak directly to those points. Reflect back their words is another one, but not reflect back their words in a shaming, condemning, gaslighting way. That's not what I mean. I mean, repeat and bring up, use the kind of terminology and things that they talk about that is revealing that you are on the same page as them in a fun, joyous, flow-based way. So rather than saying, you have a problem and here's how we can fix it, I may say, let's explore this. That's it. Let's explore it. No shame, no condemnation. They don't have a problem, not seeing them as a problem. Even though we say we are discovering pains, needs, desires, frustrations, those are opportunities. So there's nothing wrong with them for experiencing pain, need, desire, frustration. Those are all opportunities. If we go about it that way, then a relationship forms. And as mentioned, this is all about harmonious relationship. Now, what I found by doing that is rather than it being a confrontational conversation, is a harmonious conversation. And that has been found to increase conversion. Next is identify the gap. Help them articulate the gap between where they are and where they want to be. So this is what we said, their outcome, their vision. Let's talk about where they are now, and let's look at ways and let's explore. Let's discover ways. I personally like that. Let's discover ways versus here are the ways. Let's discover the ways that you can get from here to there in the most fun, joyous, easeful, flow-based way. If you go about your client acquisition conversations like this, they love having conversations with you. They don't see it as a sales pitch that is designed to force them into you versus them. There is no us versus them. That's illusory. It's us and them. And so we're relating harmoniously together by relating harmoniously on the perceived gap. There is no actual gap. They can get to where they are, to that point, in an instant, through some optimization, through your product or service, provided that it is the way. Yet, all of that can be part of the relationship where you end up facilitating it for them and with them along the way, provided if it's done for you, done with you, done by you services through your product or service offerings. Yet, it doesn't need to be stress and force-based. But do they know that? They might not know that. They might find that gap to be really scary. But if you have an exploratory conversation with them, you're able to explore what it looks like and then make an offer that is irresistible based on what it can look like. And that brings me to my next point, neutralize the struggle. It's okay if they're going through struggles. It's okay if they're experiencing pain, if they're experiencing frustration. Rather than saying that you have a problem or even communicating that, as mentioned, we brought up earlier, repeat their words back. It's not to trigger them. I don't get involved with that. There's no need to trigger them. There's only a mutually harmonious outcome. So speak to the heart rather than speaking to the beliefs in their mind that can be triggered, which then can result in an unpleasant interaction. And one of the ways we can do this is by neutralizing. And so how do you neutralize practically? Well, consider this. For the salesperson, for the entrepreneur, I teach this on my other channel. If you haven't seen my other videos, I'll link in the description, my other channel. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. If you acknowledge that existence is the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that you are seeking for, and the individual has been seeking for their entire life, then the seeking stops. Yes, the entrepreneur would like to hit their numbers, grow their business, make $1 million, etc. But in order to go about it in a fun, joyous, flow-based way, we release the needing, wanting, waiting, craving, by acknowledging that we already are all that we desire to be, by abiding as that still I am presence, returning to that source, the still I am presence, which is the source and fulfillment of love, happiness, peace, bliss. As the entrepreneur, as the sales professional practices this, which is just being as you are, being who you are, authentically being, that still I am presence is you, beyond limitation. By you being you, we could say, what happens is the conversation naturally flows. And they experience also that neutralization. One could say they are brought to peace, they are brought to love, they are brought to happiness, they are brought to fulfillment. And they relate that with you as you are relating together that way in that moment without the illusory separation. So you are thus then relating lovingly, relating in a happiness-based way. It's a happiness-based conversation, peace-based, bliss-based, fulfilling conversation. You see it? Nuance point, the key point for everything we're talking about right here is the one thing, if I would say take one thing away from this video, is to acknowledge that I am presence means complete fulfillment. Next is introduce insight, mini breakthrough, which is interesting because from that sure foundation of clarity, you communicate in a way that introduces the insight naturally. Connecting the dots. If they appear to be scattered, incoherent, all over the place, that's okay. You return to the calm and you can then relate to where they are. It happens very harmoniously without the needing, wanting, waiting, craving. And it flows towards a mutually beneficial outcome. Also, what if, as mentioned earlier, I like to say, let's explore. Well, what about this other question? What if? What if? Example, ask the what if question. What would it mean for you if this problem were resolved? So rather than here's what we're going to do and this is how we're going to solve it, which may work. It's not to say that those kinds of methods don't work. What I find to be even more effective from testing is the what if questions. Let's explore. What if? Because then what happens is they reveal the way, and then what I do is I relate what they have said over to the product or service as saying the same thing, and the gap is bridged between where they are, where they desire to be, provided that it is an authentic match. So I'm not pretending or faking my product is a match. I don't sell anything. I don't recommend doing so. That is not a match because that could result in refunds. That could result in buyer's remorse. And that takes us away from our next point, which is ongoing business with existing clients. If they have a wonderful experience with you, if you deliver on your commitments, if you have articulated that the product or service is a match for what they're looking for, and you communicate it and they become clients, and you, right from the beginning, from the onboarding, the client fulfillment, keep that integrity going, then the likelihood of them referring business to you, engaging in ongoing business with you increases. And so all of this that we're talking about here naturally results in not wanting, needing, craving, waiting, because you see just how much abundance is available right now. And just through some of the ways that we explored thus far, about 45, 50 minutes into the conversation, the various ways of prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition. Now let's talk about ongoing business from existing clients. So you've acquired prospects, you've acquired leads, you've converted a number of leads into clients in a fun, joyous, flow-based way by acknowledging that I am presence is all that I desire. Thus, I leave the ego out of the equation because we could say, by acknowledging that I am presence, there is no I versus I. You know, Bruce Lee said it wonderfully one time. He said, there is no competition because the word I does not exist. It's a nuanced point. Again, I explore this deeply in my other channel. If you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description. Two complementary channels. That channel and this channel complement each other very well, as you can tell. So next is ongoing business with existing clients. So knowing that we can engage in ongoing business with existing clients, we don't necessarily have to acquire more and more and more and more clients. While it's helpful to acquire more and more and more clients, we can also value the existing relationships that we have with our existing clients to engage in more activities that are mutually beneficial and revenue generating within the scope of existing clients. This is when I had my IT business, I found that there were a few clients that were generating 80% of the revenue. So I started to focus more on them rather than acquiring clients. And again, acquiring clients is helpful. And if you want to scale, you can acquire more clients, certainly, and put the infrastructure in place to support them, delivering on the consistency. Yet you can also value the existing relationships and explore of different ways that you can work together. Here are some ways. You can offer next level package, introduce a VIP or advanced tier program for deeper work. You can do client only events, host private workshops, Q&As, masterminds for the current clients. You can do client feature spotlights. You know, I did this in the 3 videos that I have on my Flow-Based Prosperity page for that service. I'll link in the description to it so you can check out those 3 videos. I spotlight 3 clients and I have conversations with them, their expertise, what it was like working together, etc. And then not only what ended up happening from that is that ended up becoming a case study and something that people can explore what it's like to work with me through a very engaging video format, but that also built our relationships, my relationship with each of them, which then resulted in ongoing business from them, not necessarily as them buying products or services for me, although it did happen. But what also happened was them partnering with me to create additional products and services which added more revenue. You see the power? And again, no needing, wanting, craving, because all these possibilities are available to you now. That is why I titled the mind map. Stop needing, wanting, and waiting. $1 million is yours now, as you are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds. Practically speaking, it sounds like an interesting theory, but it's not conjecture. Practically speaking, this is what is going on. Relationships, assets combined in creative ways to grow your business, and having conversations in a harmonious way without the needing, wanting. Why? Because you acknowledge that I am presence is everything you need, want. And as a result of that, the conversations flow naturally. From that premise, everything flows. So private community access, results check-in. If you are nurturing the relationships with your clients all the way through, and you can always refine any of these areas. One does not have to be perfect because there's no need to be perfect. What I mean by that is the perfection naturally arises along the way as optimization. Optimization points, ways to optimize and grow your business. Could be optimization, delegation, elimination, part or in whole or in combination. That's one of my rhymes. Optimization, automation, delegation, elimination in part or in whole or in combination. Here we're optimizing our prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, ongoing business with existing clients, opportunities, which are on the revenue side. You see how these are revenue generating activities. So this video is for those that may say, well, how do I get the money into the business? How do I bring in the revenues? Well, we have you covered here. And this is not done in a force-based way, as you can tell. Fun, joyous, flow-based way is the way. Because why? Why do you need to do it in a stress, force-based way? It's going to generate a lot of resistance to do something you genuinely don't love to do, when these are some of the things that you genuinely love to do. And these are just some, that you could just do these things and the money flows to you rather than away from you. Then that away from you results in chasing, which is the wanting, needing, craving, waiting, etc. And speaking of waiting, as I'm going about these initiatives, prospecting initiatives, lead generation initiatives, client acquisition conversations, engaging in ongoing business with existing clients, there is no waiting. It's not like I sit around and wait for people to contact me back, because that would be waiting. Because when I go about these, I get consistent lead flow, I get consistent prospecting opportunities, and there's never scarcity. I acquire clients consistently. I engage in ongoing business with existing clients consistently. So results checking and checking in and having conversations along the way facilitates building that relationship. Also, we can offer bundles for your product or services. You may credit forward what they have paid to some degree, or if they bought one product, you can credit forward towards a higher price point package, etc. So these are just some of the ways, practically speaking, that we can cease the needing, wanting, and waiting to acknowledge that $1 million is ours now. And all of this is done practically by considering what we mentioned in prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, ongoing business. What is the premise of this? The premise of this is the fun, effortless, joyous, flow-based way that is naturally magnetic. Yes, you can be magnetic in prospecting. Yes, you can be magnetic in lead generation. Yes, you can be magnetic in client acquisition. Yes, you can be magnetic in generating ongoing business with existing clients. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. As mentioned, the book is going to be released on April 25th, which goes deeper into this. If you're interested in that, join the mailing list, which is in the link in the description, and you get to download a copy of this mind map. And as mentioned, I'm doing some events as well upcoming. I will notify you of that as well. Thank you very much for watching. I will talk with you soon. Take care.